We're all kind of taught that a busy, stimulated life is a productive one. Packed calendars, constant notifications, that's the sign of success, right? But what if that's completely wrong? What if the real key to getting things done, to being truly creative, isn't in all that noise, but in the quiet spaces in between? So today, let's dive into the architecture of what I call productive boredom.
Just take a second to let this sink in. This quote, it flips everything we think we know about success right on its head. It suggests that the very thing we are constantly running away from, boredom, might actually be the secret weapon for the world's highest achievers. So how on earth could a boring life be so incredibly powerful?
Well, it really starts with this number right here, 96. Yeah, that is the average number of times your brain gets a little nudge to check for a notification every single day. We are constantly searching, swiping, and refreshing, basically training our minds to crave distraction. And that craving, it comes at a huge cost. And this leads us right into this fascinating idea, which I like to call the success paradox. It's this core conflict we're all living with. We're going to unpack this strange tension between our modern, hyper-stimulated habits and what it actually takes to do great work. But to do that, we first have to understand what's going on in our own heads. Okay, so it all boils down to what's happening up here in our brains. Let's talk about your brain on cheap thrills, the science behind all this modern distraction. These are those tiny, ultimately unsatisfying little bursts of stimulation we get from our devices. And we're about to dig into the actual neurology of why we can't seem to get enough of them.
Right, and at the heart of all this is something called the dopamine trap. Now, a lot of people think of dopamine as the pleasure chemical, but it's really more of a motivation chemical. It's the thing that drives you to seek rewards. And the trap is that our world today offers this endless buffet of tiny, easy-to-get rewards that just keeps us seeking and seeking and seeking without ever really feeling satisfied. And this shows you the exact loop we get ourselves trapped in. So first, our brain seeks something new, right? Then, bam, we get a tiny reward, a little like on a photo, an email, a news alert. And here's the kicker. Our brain adapts. The baseline for what feels normal goes up. So what happens next? We have to repeat the whole cycle, seeking more and more frequent hits just to feel okay. It is a literal treadmill of distraction.
Okay, so that's the problem. It's a pretty big one. But what's the solution? Well, that brings us to what I think is creativity's real secret ingredient. And it's all about how doing nothing is actually the key to thinking, well, everything. We're about to flip the script on what it means to be productive.
Okay, this right here, this is probably the most important idea we're going to talk about. Boredom isn't some empty state you have to fill. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Think of it as your brain's creative default mode. It's the state it shifts into when it's finally free from all that external noise and can start making its own connections.
I mean, just look at the contrast between these two. On one hand, you've got the stimulated brain. It's reactive. It's jumping from one thing to the next. It's operating on this really shallow level. It's just consuming. But then you have the bored brain. It's reflective. It generates ideas from the inside. This is where deep focus and real honest-to-goodness creativity are born. Which side of this chart do you think is going to lead to a breakthrough?
So this all brings us right back to where we started, with those supposedly boring high achievers. Turns out it's not just some random personality quirk. There is actual science behind why they protect their quiet time so fiercely and deliberately limit all that external noise in their lives. And the key concept we need to understand is called baseline arousal. Basically, it's your brain's natural hum, its default level of alertness when there's nothing going on. And what's so fascinating is that for a lot of people, especially folks who lean introverted, that baseline is already running pretty high. Their minds are naturally buzzing with activity. This chart really makes it crystal clear. See, we all have this sweet spot, an optimal zone for focus and performance. Now, if your internal engine is already running high, like it is for many introverts and deep thinkers, you don't need a lot of outside noise to get into that zone. In fact, add too much stimulation, like say 96 notifications a day, and you get pushed right out of that zone into a state of overwhelm and anxiety. Okay, so this is all great in theory, but how do we actually do this? How do we escape that dopamine trap and find our own optimal zone? Let's get into our final section, the really practical stuff, the boring life manifesto. These are the principles that can help you get your focus back. It really boils down to 4 key principles. First, you've got to embrace low stimulation stuff. Think going for a walk without headphones or just reading a book.
Second, and this is a big one, you have to literally schedule nothing time into your calendar. And maybe most important of all, when you feel that boredom creeping in, don't run for your phone. See it as an opportunity. It's your brain telling you it's finally ready to do its best work. It's all about choosing depth over distraction.
So I want to leave you with this one final thought. We spend so much of our lives running away from boredom, right? Filling every single spare moment with noise. But what if that one big idea you've been searching for, that elegant solution to a tricky problem, what if it's not out there in all that noise? What if it's waiting for you right here on the other side of boredom? What will you discover when you finally let yourself get there?